Hello there, my name is HED Rules 0001 and welcome to episode 1 of The Moaning Show. This will be the start of what's going to hopefully be quite a long series, as British people like myself have a lot to moan about. So I'm going to get on with a subject that is very close to my heart, and that is sport. Now, to look at me, you would say he's no sportsman, and you'd be right. I like sitting and watching sport. And the first subject that I'd like to moan about is sport on the BBC, the British Broadcasting Corporation, which provides most of my television enjoyment, or so it seems. The main sport in Britain is football, what Americans call soccer. So the first thing I'd like to say is football is extremely popular all over the world, and the BBC don't host live football of its main league and its main knockout competition. The main league is understandable because there's a law saying that you can't show live football unless it's on at a different time to 3 o'clock in the afternoon, which Sky take advantage of. Now, specifically, the BBC have lost the coverage of the knockout tournament known as the FA Cup to ITV and Sky, and they lost that coverage about 5 or 6 years ago. The BBC do not show England matches. I am English, I am proud to be English, and I do not want to see Scotland and Wales matches. I do not want to see Northern Ireland matches. I am English. I do not want to watch those matches. I would like to watch my own team play. Now, I understand that these matches are on ITV, but the BBC has been the primary channel of free-to-air television for a heck of a long time now, well over, say, 80 years or so. Now, the BBC do show some live football, unless it's an international tournament. They do show championship games, about one a month or one every other month. Now, this in contrast to what I've just been talking about is okay if you support one of the teams in this league, but if you support a team in the higher or lower leagues, you've got no chance of watching your team play unless you physically go and see them play, which in this financial climate is near impossible. I will then like to talk about rugby. As I speak, the Rugby World Cup in New Zealand is entering its knockout stage, which is fair play. It's been quite an interesting tournament so far, and again, we can't watch a single second of it on the BBC. For some inexplicable reason, ITV have coverage of this and have done ever since the beginning, and it boggles the mind because the BBC show the Six Nations tournament fully live, every single match, even England games, unlike the autumn internationals, which they show Wales, Scotland, Ireland, and all of those matches are shown. England matches, can't touch them for love nor money. And the mere fact that the BBC can't even begin to bother with the Rugby World Cup is another exclamation of their resulting drop in interest in sport, in my opinion. Golf. Now, as a big fan of golf, I look forward every year to the Open Golf Championship, which is known worldwide as the UK Open or the British Open. It's the oldest, possibly one of the oldest competitions in the world as far as sport is concerned, and we see all 4 days of that on the BBC. Well done, you can do something. But the second biggest competition in golf is the US Masters in Augusta, Georgia every year, and before this year things have been getting a little bit better, because the new owners of the course itself had said televise what you want and pay us the hard-earned cash for it. Now, unfortunately, this year we lost the first 2 days' coverage to Sky. You'll notice a theme here. Sky have kidnapped a lot of our sports that we care about, and we can't. Some of us can't afford it. Some of us are not allowed to have it, which is both in my case. I live in rented accommodation. I'm not allowed to have Sky one iota, even if I could afford it, which I can't at the moment. But Sky have kidnapped the first 2 days of the US Masters golf tournament, and we had an hour's highlights after the second day's play had finished, showing us what had happened, documenting about 10 to 12 hours of play, which is, in anyone's standards, piss poor. We showed the last 2 days' coverage, and it turned out to be quite a tournament, as it usually is. But that's besides the point. It's BBC losing coverage to other channels, namely Rupert Murdoch's Sky. Now, I'm going to talk about now a subject that isn't that close to me, but it's still an example of what the BBC seem to be doing now. The Grandstand Sports magazine programme, or sports programme, used to showcase a wide variety of sports from across the country, across the world, and one of those mainly featured was horse racing. If there wasn't a football match, or if there wasn't darts or cricket or whatever, and I'll come back to cricket in a moment, but the horse racing used to be on every week, and to be honest, it used to get a bit boring. Now, you're lucky to see horse racing 4 or 5 times a year on the BBC. Now, you see the Grand National, which everyone watches. You see the Derby, which supposedly everyone watches. I can't stand it myself. It's just horses running in a line. It's boring, isn't it? And a couple of others, like the Prix de l'Arc de Triomphe in France. But apart from that, you hardly see any horse racing at all on the BBC. Cricket. I said I was coming back to it. In 2005, the country got behind England in the Ashes match against Australia, the Ashes series, should I say, against Australia, because of a campaign by who was broadcasting it at the time, Channel 4. Now we've even lost those rights. The BBC haven't shown a single game of cricket live in probably 10 years since the Cricket World Cup in England in 1999, and that's well over 10 years ago, which is absolutely pathetic considering we created sport. Now, my main reason for posting this video, the Moaning Show episode 1, is about the Formula 1 deal. I have loved Formula 1 ever since I can remember. I named my first pet after some advertising on one of the spaces on the back of a car. From 2012 onwards, BBC will only be showing half the races live and half the races with extended highlights. Now, the term highlight makes me cringe, especially in Formula 1 terms, but guess who's got the coverage for 2012 onwards? Sky. God, I hate them. Bastards. Excuse my French. Now, onto a few sports that I don't particularly care for, but are strangely unaffected by the cuts to BBC budgets. And this is all that it's down to. BBC budgets. Wimbledon Tennis Championships. They will continue to show the full 2 weeks of coverage, and the full 2 weeks of coverage is too damn much. If any of the main protagonists, especially in the male game, are playing, we're talking Federer, Nadal, and especially Andy fucking Murray, pardon my French there, but if any of those 3 gentlemen are playing a tennis match, then you may as well throw the television schedules out the window. I remember specifically this year there was a lot of anger from EastEnders fans, EastEnders being the BBC main show, one show that more people than any other watch. EastEnders was cancelled because Andy Murray was playing tennis. Now, granted, Wimbledon is only once a year and it's for 2 weeks a year, but the BBC's biggest show was put back a day because Andy Murray was playing tennis, and for some weird reason we can't press a different button on a control to watch him on another channel, which is disgraceful. Gymnastics. Now, I seem to remember in the last 6 months or so the BBC showing the World Gymnastics Championships. Fine, you've got a World Championships, but it's gymnastics. Who the hell watches that? It's just a load of... Let's be honest about it. Underage girls with ribbons jumping on planks of wood and trying to balance on a few hanging rings. It's a load of bollocks. Pardon my French again. You'll notice I speak French quite a bit in these videos, so stay with me. Show jumping. Yeah, more bollocks. Show jumping is a load of posh people on highly trained, I'll grant them that, highly trained horses jumping over tiny fences. And someone say, oh no, you've got that wrong if you've knocked a fence over. I mean, what a load of shit. Now, there are 2 reasons for these changes to BBC Sports coverage. The main one is in 2012, next year, the Olympics is going to be held in London. And I believe the BBC are putting everything that they have into this coverage of the London 2012 Games. Now, granted, there'll probably be very good games, but we're missing out on other sports, as I've just been talking about. And I'm trying not to sound too sexist here, but the head of BBC Sport is a woman, and is a woman called Barbara Slater. Now, I'm sure she's very qualified for her job, but how in all that is holy can a woman have the same passion of keeping a sport on the BBC, particularly keeping a sports coverage on the BBC, and, you know, keeping all of that? We've lost football, we've lost cricket, we've lost horse racing, we've lost rugby, and now we're losing F1. All sports that men tend to care more about than women. Tennis, gymnastics, show jumping, say 3-day eventing, say the badminton trials, stuff like that. Safe as houses. Need I say any more? This is HED Rules 0001, and the end of the Moaning Show is here. Thank you very much for watching. Post all your comment if you want, and a few suggestions on what you'd like to see me moan about. Moaning is a natural state of life, and I am out.